Hello everyone, this is Master Victor Newstroy. Thank you for joining. Today we are going to talk about intuitive evaluation. We are going to talk about such scenarios where it does make sense to not avoid calculating lines, but decide which move or which plan to initiate based on your intuition. Okay, so please let me know whether sound and video quality is good. It should be fine actually. I prepared 4 games for us to analyze today, which illustrates correct and also sometimes wrong decisions based on the intuition. So chess is such a game where you cannot base your decision on intuition only, of course. Okay, perfect. Thank you for letting me know. By the way, is there anyone who attends this workshop for the first time? Because we are doing workshops regularly every Sunday. Um, so are there people who attended for the first time? If yes, then let me introduce myself a little. I'm a FIDE master. My current rating is 2283, I think. Yeah, I think it didn't change. However, I'm going to participate in the tournament in May or June. There are 2 tournaments that I'm going to participate. At least I'll choose one. So I live in Argentina. I'm originally from Russia, but I live in Argentina. Okay, so perfect. What else? I'm doing these workshops on a regular basis. They are free. Also, we are doing group classes on Fridays. They are not free, but they are affordable. And I'm also recording chess courses and doing individual classes with my students. So if you are interested in it, please message me. Fine. So Trina, can I get, well, okay, you're welcome. This is the first time you joined. Can you please tell a little more about yourself, like which country you are from and what's your rating? It can be even chess.com online rating or Chess rating. Okay, so fine. Okay, by the way, have you seen my newest video that I published on YouTube about gaining rating points on chess.com? I just well, I just like provided with a hack, like it's a little like hack how to improve your rating. So of course, everyone enjoys playing chess when he sees that his rating is growing, even despite that there are a lot of losing games. Okay, I'll send you the link later. I think it's actually okay. Yes, let me just search for the link here. Okay, watch it. My recommendation. It worked for me. It worked for several other people. They also mentioned it in the comments on chess.com. And so people are increasing rating by just playing against higher rated players. That's it. Fine. So what else? Well, this event is recording, and if you missed it, I mean, if you have to leave in the middle or so on, you can later watch the recording. It will be published on my YouTube channel. As well as I'm going to send you a reminder. I'm going to send you an email tomorrow with the recording of this event. So let's talk about intuition a little. What you should remember about it? Well, of course, you should understand that, well, chess is can be all. I mean, all positions can be calculated, can be counted, and chess is a countable game. However, it's so complicated that even the engine cannot fully decide chess, and of course our brain cannot do the same neither. That's why when we when we have to take a certain decision and we see that the line is too long or too deep, or there are a lot of deviation, we understand that we cannot calculate all that stuff, or we don't have time to calculate all that, and we have to take a decision using our intuition. And what in which situations we should base our decision on our intuition? Well, if we see that, for example, the character of a game changes, or if we would like to keep the character of the game, or if we see that there is a promising sacrifice, but we cannot calculate the line to the very end to understand that we either checkmate the king or get material back. Also, we can use intuition when we decide in which direction we should continue the game. Or let's say they checked our king and we don't know in where the king is better placed. Then we just by intuition think that where the king is safe, or where the king potentially can be better prepared for the end game, for example. Also, when you decide to how to locate your rook, so one rook goes to the E file, the other rook goes to the D or the C, you do it mainly by intuition. For example, you want to make a rook move to the D file and you decide which rook to play, the A or the F, and then you should understand what your rook potentially should be doing on the other file left. For example, if you make a rook F to D1, then you think, okay, my rook from the A file can stay there, can go to the B or the C file. If there is something helpful that this rook can do, then your rook FD8, FD1 move is correct. If not, if you think that your rook is useless on the A file, you better use the other rook. Okay, what else? And also, when you decide to choose the pawn structure, it's very often it's done by intuition. You think, okay, this is a solid pawn structure. Well, or maybe, well, this pawn structure doesn't look well, and but my pieces are better. They are more active in this scenario. So intuition is very close to a compromise. I mean, well, when you play a chess game, you have to think whether this factor dominates over the other factor. And very often it can be done by intuition. Okay, so let's take a look at one very simple example before we continue. Yeah, so yes, Brian, I absolutely agree with you. So there, if, for example, you look at the enemy king's position and make and declare that there must be a mate somewhere there, it can be done by intuition. So you see you have a lot of pieces attacking the enemy king, but you don't see a concrete way of delivering the king. So this is how you make your statement by intuition. So let's take a look at this example where black played f6, which is definitely a stupid move. And this first time was played in 1497. So in the 5th century. This opening was called by Lucena. Well, Lucena is that chess player who created Lucena position, which we know from when we studied rook and games. And he called it Gambito Bastardo. So this is in Italian, which, well, we can translate it to like Bastard's Gambit. Okay, so I have no idea as why is it called like that, but f6 is definitely a stupid move. What's wrong f6 does for the position? So first of all, it weakens the king. It's not a sister opening to the Philidor, definitely not. However, if you play d4 here, That's fine. d4 offers a promising position for you. Every time you see your opponent is making stupid moves, not fighting for the center, not developing his pieces in the very beginning of the game, open the position and take advantage of it. In this, d4 looks good. Bishop c4 looks good too, because it prevents the enemy king from castling. However, white took on e5, and well, this sacrifice wasn't intuitive. Well, it was only partially intuitive. So, well, I don't know if you understand what happens in case of f takes e5. Do you understand? Yeah, it's queen h5, obviously. So if f takes e5, it's queen h5, and there is not much to discuss after that. Well, okay, let's see. g6, queen e5, and they blunder the rook. The other option is king e7. Queen e5 anyway, king goes that way, bishop there, and this is a strong attack. So using Brian's words, we can say that somewhere here it should be checkmate. Yeah, there is a checkmate, for example, if he plays king g6. Well, he should play d5 here, sacrificing the pawn but activating his bishop. So bishop takes d5, king g6. It eliminates our queen f5 move. We should continue the game with a different move like that. h6, let's say he wants to escape. Who can tell me what's the best move in this position? Well, rook h3, but rook h3 they take with the bishop on h3. I'm still thinking that you're winning after that, but I don't understand the point of this sacrifice. d4, d4, and if he does knight f6? Queen g3, king h7. So it's just a useless check. g4. Well, g4 looks... no, I don't think it looks better. So g4, maybe queen f6. Well, it's a terrible position, and any move still offers a winning position for white. So that's why you can play almost anything you want. But there is one move that's definitely better than others. And it's not bishop e6, it's bishop to b7, and you win material. So how do you win material here? If they take, it's checkmate with queen f5. If not, if they do something else, let's say bishop d6 attacking the queen goes to a5. And we are still threatening with this mate in case if they take our bishop. If they don't, then we take the rook and we are ahead in material. So king g6, queen f5, this is what you probably know. Then it's d4, g5 is played, and h4, threatening with this, which leads to checkmate. So this line was first played by Damiano. Well, it was a strong chess player in the 16th century, in 1512. Oh yeah, and he has a and then after that, this kind of mating pattern was called after him, Damiano's mate. Fine. So well, definitely it was possible to calculate queen h5, g6, and king e7, but I said that it's only partially intuitive and partially calculated. Why? Because the second option for black here is to play queen e7 and win the pawn back. And this is what was calculated intuitively. I mean, this is what was decided intuitively. So knight goes to f3, because now sacrificing this knight, for example, by doing this move makes no sense. Then after g6, queen e5 is not playable. That's why the knight retreats. When white decided to take on e5, here he intuitively thought that, okay, so if queen e4, I play bishop e2, and then I castle, and probably I can play rook e1 and create some threats. I don't know whether they work, but they look great. Because it's not clear what exactly black can do. Black struggles with development. Maybe there will be a chance for white to take advantage of that better development. For example, this, then castle, rook e1, and some initiative. This is what white decided by intuition. White also calculated this line, d5, d3, defending the pawn, and this. Here it's basically the same, but the position is more open. That's why the white's advantage in development can offer better chances. So once again, if we go to this moment, so this is what white calculated. This is what is the line where white had to take intuitive decision. Knight moves, then either d5 or queen e4, and then the intuition told white that he is better in this position, and that's why he played knight e5 move. Fine. So queen e7, knight f3, d5, d3, this is what happened in the game. Knight c6, black tries to develop his pieces. Castle, bishop d7, they are focusing on development on the queen side. Knight e3, so here the queen may go to where? e6, g6. By the way, if the queen goes to g6, how would you play? What would you suggest? Knight h4. Knight h4 isn't as good as knight e5 is. No, well, Arush, absolutely correct. It's knight e5, and you're threatening this and that. And if they take your knight, it's bishop h5 winning a queen. So it's better. Knight b5, for example, doesn't look so good because they castle and defend on c7. Bishop d3, attacking the queen on g6 with temper and also opening. Well, it's, yeah, it does make sense. All moves are good, to be honest, but this move is much better than others. So that's why queen e6. Bishop f4, developing pieces and putting pressure there, and then knight b5. So it's not so easy to defend the c7 pawn. Bishop e8 was played. Now the queen is hanging. So bishop d3, bishop d6, offering a trade. I think that was almost the only way to defend c7. Rook e1, chasing the queen away. So here moving the queen there would just offer better chances for white. Well, it's materially equal position, but white pieces look better. So you can, how can you play, by the way, in this position? Knight takes d6, and if rook takes d6, bishop f5 is a discovered attack, but the problem is that they can make a king's move to c7 and defend the rook. So bishop f5 first makes sense, and if the king goes to b8, because the king has to go to b8, then you can capture on d6 with a temper. You're attacking the queen, and even if they try to take advantage of the pins, I don't know how, you can take on e8, which pins the rook, so you are fine then. So let's say which move to play, queen f8. Adding pressure there, but rook e8, and this rook is pinned. So rook takes, knight takes, you're a pawn up. This, rook e1, so looks like the game was almost over. So queen f7 would still provide white with absolutely winning position, but queen g4 was played, which is a mistake. Now I want you to calculate a simple combination and find the best move. What do you think? Dan suggests 95. So knight takes knight. What's the purpose? Brian suggests knight fd4. Okay, and if the queens are exchanged? John is very close to the winning line. So bishop d6, c takes d6, knight takes d6, rook takes d6, and then rook e8. So winning the pawn. Arush is also very close, but here the move order matters. Okay, no, first it's bishop takes d6. First it's bishop takes d6, c takes d6, then you play rook e8, rook takes e8, and not knight d6. Knight d6 allows you to win a pawn only, but bishop f5. Yes, then absolutely right. It's bishop f5. So winning a queen. Queen f5 and knight d6 is a triple fork. So you win the queen. Okay, so this was a simple example, and actually it wasn't so hard to take this decision of knight a5. So part of this line was calculated, for example, knight a5, f takes a5, and the second part was decided intuitively. So intuitively, White thought that his position is better due to better development. Because, well, black played f6, weakened their king's position. Black played queen e4, so the queen and king are on the same file. And aside, I mean, except these moves, there were no other developing moves. That's why I think so. Here it wasn't so hard to trust your intuition and decide that this is fine for white. White is definitely ahead. Okay, the second example. The second example is more complicated. It was, well, I don't know if you know these guys, Dragalup Velimirovich and Radmir Khalmov. Radmir Khalmov was a very strong Soviet, I think he was a master, not a grandmaster. But there are many books written by him. Okay, so the opening isn't so important for us, but it was French, and here he played d takes c5, which makes just very little sense, so people don't play like that, but we are here not to discuss this opening. So I think black is completely okay, and in this position I would, for example, play queen b6, attacking both pieces. I mean, both pawns. So, but I don't know what he was thinking about. He played bishop f4, knight g7, so queen b6 wasn't played, bishop d3, still not queen b6. Queen b6 was very good move. Bishop goes that way. Now queen b6 doesn't look so well. Castle, castle, and f5. So f4 is coming. That's why en passant. Queen takes. Well, and let's talk about this position. Of course, I didn't like the way how white played, but looks like white avoided serious issues. And the position is approximately equal. But let's decide what we should be doing here. So what's going on? They control the center. Our b2 is hanging, but it's still the opening stage of the game because there are pieces that remain undeveloped, like the knight, bishop. This pawn can be weak. The b pawn, unlikely. The e6 pawn can be weak, but it's protected by the bishop, and I know that in this type of French defense pawn center, so it's very common to play bishop d7 and rook a e8, and then the e pawn can move. And I don't think it's possible to hold it, because let's say e5, knight takes, it's bishop f2. So that's why it's likely that black advances here this pawn. Okay. So what do you think? Well, white has several plans here. What do you think white should be doing? Well, your suggestion. Not a move, but a plan. A plan is a series of moves. Or you can just explain it in your words. So here it's all about intuition. It's all about intuition. There is nothing concrete. There is nothing to calculate. And here you base your decisions on how you understand the position, how the positional factors tell you that what you should be playing intuitively here. Okay, so then suggest c3, knight b d2, knight b3, knight d4. Okay, so it seems that then made a lot of progress. This is a clever plan. I would add here bishop takes g6 to get better control over the e5 square. So c3 first, knight b d2, then take on g6, and knight b3, knight d4, setting the blockade of the e5 and the blockade of the pawns. Well, this is a possible positional plan. What else? Okay, in this game, white decided to play intuitively. They played c4. Well, no, rook e1 and knight e5 doesn't work because you have issues with f2. And also, what if they take on b2 right away? So white chose another plan. He played c4. But before we continue with this plan, let me talk about c3. So c3, which move to play? Can they play e5 now? No, it doesn't seem so, because take, then what? Pawn takes or queen takes. If queen, well, d5 is hanging in both cases. So this, maybe this, knight b d2, maybe that, but then you can take on g6. So here, pawn, queen takes on g6, knight goes that way, bishop goes here, and it's possible to get the control over the e5 square. For example, well, I don't think knight d2 should be played. Let me play this move and bring this rook. And then I want to occupy this and keep this defended. If I want to eliminate this knight's activity, I'll play this, knight d4. So knight d4 and knight e5, this is what I want to achieve. And then maybe I'm going to push the f pawn, and this is how my f rook will participate the game. So that was a possible plan. There is no blunders. Well, so it was logical. Instead, he played c4, and he made such a decision by intuition. Why? Well, he thought that by doing, well, he let them playing this move. After that, well, bishop g6, h takes g6. So here, for example, queen e1 played immediately is a mistake. It can be calculated. So what's wrong with queen e1 move here? Well, the original idea of the c4 move was to fight for the center and weaken the pawn on d5. Bishop h7, king h7, knight g5, king g6. So queen h5 fails. But you can instead play queen c2, and after the king moves away, knight c3 traps the queen. Here? No. The queen is still trapped. Maybe they cannot capture but escape. Well, if so, then it's knight g5, queen h5, and so on. Fine. So queen b2 was played. Bishop g6, h takes g6, and c takes d5. So white is looking for a dynamic compensation here. So he sacrifices exchange, not the rook, but exchange. So for example, e takes d5 is a blunder, queen takes d5, then king moves, the bishop is hanging. It's also possible to save the rook, but I would take the bishop. I can show you. Oh, okay, actually, I'm sure you understand it. So this is where they played queen e1. If they want to take the rook, it's the best moment. Then d takes c6. White sacrificed the exchange, but got the pawn there. And here, white white made a bet that these pawns are weak, and it can guarantee a compensation for the exchange. So he decided by intuition. What do you think? Was he right or wrong? So the vast majority of our participants believe that he was right and looks fine. Well, actually, no. It's too early to say that, but here, okay, so what white wants to do? He wants to play queen c2 and knight c3, obviously. For example, if b takes c6, then queen c2. And here, yes, it's right, he is fine. For example, if bishop b4, d4, well, the bishop has to move, it's hanging. So bishop b4 stops knight d4, queen c6, and the rook is trapped, and there is no chance to make a bishop move to protect the rook. The rook cannot go to b8. There is a bishop on g3. Bishop b6 is better. Okay, how is it better? Still the rook is trapped. You mean you can play bishop here? Well, fine. Take here. How do you play in this position? King h7 or rook f7? No, rook f7. Then it's knight e5 on the g5. Well, okay. So calm down. So I play bishop e5 and still trap your queen. Yes, Arush, absolutely correct. Bishop b4 is possible. So bishop d4 is better. But if bishop d4, I think it's queen c6 right away. And the rook is trapped. So that's why b takes c6 is not a possibility, and they play this move. How to continue initiative? Maybe knight c3, maybe something else, but knight e5 was played. Queen d5, black just naturally wants to exchange queens, because without queens there is no full compensation. Queen c2 and bishop d4. So he takes on g6, attacking the rook and threatening with a fork. Then rook e8 and rook d1. So which move would you suggest for black in this position? Queen c5, queen f5, what else? B takes c6. Well, b takes c6 is likely to fail, I think. I don't see why. Maybe knight c3? No. Maybe bishop f5 first. Actually, it makes sense. So bishop f5, queen c5 works. Yeah, so b takes c6 works. In the game, it was played queen f5, and queen f5 is also a nice move. They don't hang the bishop, so for example, in case of queen exchange and the bishop is captured, it's a back rank mate. That's why queen b3. And this is where he made a mistake. Just playing something natural like this move would allow black to successfully play this position with extra material, because how to react. So b takes c6 can be the next move. This knight is hanging, so either they take or save the knight. If they save the knight, it's just b takes c6, knight c6, and simply bishop b7 with pressure here. Maybe first this, but the knight can go to a better position, maybe, but what's the purpose? So bishop b6 and black is clearly winning. So this time the white's intuition didn't work and his position was terrible, but it's very hard to calculate it when you decide to play c4, or instead you decide to choose a more calm plan with a blockade c3, knight d2, and so on. So, well, it doesn't mean that you always should try to your intuition. And actually, you can make an experiment. So, looking forward, let me tell you what you should do to make this experiment. Well, when you play Blitz, you don't have time to calculate the lines, and most of the decisions you make, you make by intuition. That's why what you can do is you can compare your strength with the standard time control and your strength with the blitz time control. The best way is to compare your feeder ratings. For example, if you're an experienced feeder player, you well, and if your blitz is higher than your standard rating, then your intuition most likely works better than other chess players. As for me, my standard rating is higher than my blitz rating, so I think that my intuition isn't so good, and I don't often trust it. But I'm able to find tactics where my opponent thinks that there is no tactics, and I'm able to create tactics as well as calculate it properly. This is where I'm better, and for this you need time. So in sharp positions where tactics is crucial, I'm better. But in blitz games, I just don't have time to figure out which line works, which not. And sometimes, well, and very often actually, not sometimes, but very often you have to take your decision by intuition in blitz, and that's why in blitz I'm not as successful in as I am with standard time control. So you can do the same experiment. Play some rapid and play some blitz games on chess.com and compare your ratings. So what happened here? Queen g6. They made a mistake. They took lost their bishop, b takes c6, and the only white's issue is the back rank weakness, so they need to create an escape square. Queen goes to f5, knight d2, and this bishop is definitely bad. It doesn't compensate. I mean, so well, it's not a valuable piece, and even the extra exchange here doesn't favor black. So also there is a complex of light squares that you can occupy with your pieces. The knight can successfully set a blockade. So c5, rook goes to g4 to add pressure there. Well, rook e7, some passive defense. Bishop comes to d6 to chase the rook away. Rook goes that way, and queen g3. So bishop e5, and there will be a lot of pressure. Black is very slow with their other pieces. Bishop b7, knight, bishop e5. Queen goes there to defend. So queen goes there to defend, and then knight c4, threatening to go there. Bishop d5, knight d6, rook d7, f4, holding the position. This pawn is attacked 3 times and defended 3 times, so white cannot take it. And black wants to promote the c pawn. King h2. Rook b8, trying to activate his pieces, and in this position just something simple like knight c4 was good enough. Attacking the rook. So that's actually the reason why king h2 was played, to not allow a check with a rook on b1. So king h2, and if the rook goes there, there will be a discovered attack with knight c4 at least. But both players were low on time, and white was, well, too focused on his attack. So he played f5, which is a mistake. And then he experienced some issues. Queen f4. So bishop g2. What's the point of bishop g2? Who can tell me? Yeah, queen h3. The idea is queen h3. So rook g2, it's queen h3. King goes to g1. Then it can be... Actually, maybe this time it's better to take with... No, with the queen it's still better. Yeah, so queen h3, king g1, check. King goes that way, and in this position, just c3. So no sacrifice there. Rook b2 is coming. No, well, that's the reason why I play c3, not only to promote, but to play rook b2 and win the rook. Something like rook h2 is faced with this move. Rook g7, okay, rook g7, bishop g7, rook f1. That's why you'd better start with this move. But if you start with this move, I think I can still play rook f1. How do you defend it? Something like queen f2. c2. Oh, c2 fails. Yeah, so take with the queen. Take with the queen, then this. King g2, and then c2. So this is how black is winning. Oh, rook b2 wins. Yeah, oh yeah, so good point. Bishop g7, rook b2 wins, of course. Okay, fine. So that's why after bishop, well, if they take with the king, it's basically the same. Queen h3, king f2, let's say. Let's still play c3. c3 and rook b2 is coming. Okay, so h4 to eliminate queen h3. Bishop h3 was played, attacking it. So here it was possible to, well, it was possible to play rook g5 just. Instead, they made queen takes c4 move, which was a mistake. And black also made a mistake. So what they have to do in this position is, well, maybe you can tell me. Maybe you can tell me how to play in this position for black. So they took this rook on g4, and that was definitely blunder. So the quality of this game lowered here a lot, mainly because they both were in a time trouble. Rook d6. I think rook d6. No, rook d6 is slow. So rook d6. Well, queen b3. No. No, I don't think it works. So rook d6. Well, at least bishop d6. Okay, maybe. What else I can do? So rook g7, queen g7. Okay, queen c8, king f7 is a must. Then I wonder if queen c7 works, or rook g7 and then queen c7. Does it work? Okay, what about this? Oops, no, this is a mistake. I was talking about this move. This move, well, the whole concept here is that it seems they have to take. Otherwise, I take there. I can also win a rook. So they have to take, and then I continue with a rook check. Maybe there is a better way. Okay, no. So queen c8 is correct, but in this position, just bishop d6 works. Because if they take there, I take on e6 with checkmate. Oh, yeah, it was easy. Fine. So not rook d6. After queen c4, they had to play queen f5. How does queen f5 works? Knight takes, for example, and then it's checkmate. Oh, well, rook queen f1 or queen c1 is possible, but it's only just one move defense, and then black still checkmates. Instead, it was this, and they blundered checkmate with queen to c8. So here, rook moves, queen d8, it's over. Well, I can hardly imagine that a grandmaster can blunder that way, but they were low in time with no increment. That's the reason why the game character changed a lot, and this end of the game consisted of so many mistakes. But let's go back and talk about this c4 move. So I wouldn't play so. Not because I analyze this game, but because I understand that black didn't do anything wrong and their position is solid enough. So white is not better. If, let's say, black struggled with development a lot, then yes, I would consider a c4. But here, black pieces are really good. So they have a queen, which is covering key squares. They have their knights already developed. They have the central pawns, while white doesn't. This bishop is active too, targeting f2, and the f file is open, which also favors black. I would play c3 and knight d2, knight b3 move. this strategy. So that's why, according to the internal logic of chess, if black didn't do anything wrong, then white well, that's why a tactical strike, and we call c4 a kind of a tactical strike, will favor black. If white was ahead, then maybe it would favor white, but black is completely fine, so c4 is likely to favor black. But it does make sense to play such a move if you know your opponent well. For example, if you know that he struggles with tactics, that he often makes mistakes, then he is under pressure, then yes. But well, here intuition didn't help white, and he made a mistake getting a losing position and managed to win it mainly because of mistakes of black. So, or maybe he just thought that he is winning here, but they are not forced to take. I actually think that white calculated until this moment and just decided, okay, so they play something, they can take there, and their pawns are weak. They all are isolated, and this will help me to compensate my exchange sacrifice. But it's not enough, because white doesn't have pawns neither, and that's why once the queens are exchanged, white is in a serious trouble. He is down material. Okay, fine. The next one. This is for black this time. Okay, so in this line, it was played a kind of a weird version of Catalan. Knight c6 was played. Well, doing this could make a lot of sense. But white decided to play a rarer move. Knight a5. Well, it's a, well, here the engine says it's an accuracy, but it's actually a theoretical move. And this is where white should make their decision based on their intuition. So what do you think? Which move intuitively is good in this position? Okay, so Brian's suggestion is knight g4. Okay, why knight g4? Don't I win a pawn with this move? It looks very suspicious. Okay, knight g4. No, I want to play something like that. h3, so bishop moves where? e6 probably. 6 knight c3, then I'm threatening to take on d5, and if you take, I'm threatening with this. So take there, c takes, looks okay for white. Yeah, so it's not knight g4. Well, it was d takes c4, but how to make such a decision? This was definitely correct, and white, I mean, the black's intuition here was absolutely correct. Why so? Well, this move, what does it lead to? Knight c6, b takes c6, bishop c6, rook b8. Doesn't it look like a terrible position? So the number of pawns is equal. c4 is a weakness. Both c and the a pawns are isolated. Well, is it a good idea to take on c4? Actually, yes. What Portish was thinking, what he was relying on in this position, he thought that, okay, so yes, the pawn structure becomes terrible on the queen side, but pieces activity matters more. And here he can successfully develop his pieces and develop initiative and probably play for a win. So he thought that his pawn structure His bad pawn structure is compensated with his development and pieces activity. Knight c3 was played, bishop h3. So rook e1 simply. Well, was it a good idea to play like that? Well, I don't think so. The bishops are exchanged and then maybe h4, h5, h4, and so on. So rook e1. Knight g4, adding pressure on d4. And here, white being under pressure made a mistake. If he didn't, for example, if he found the best move, and played this, so with knight f4 threat. Queen d6, let's say, attacking the bishop. e4, well, no, the bishop is poisoned at the moment. E4, e5, f3, king moves. Now the bishop is hanging, so queen a4 defending it. And this is approximately equal. But he made a mistake. He played e3. Well, I think that almost everyone would play such a move because d4 is hanging. What's wrong with this move? How black can get his pieces better coordinated in this position? Well, queen d6, what's the purpose of queen d6? Queen d6, I think bishop retreats, or maybe queen e4, and again, yeah, queen d6, queen e4. So this. Well, it's e5. You can actually do queen d6, queen e4, and then e5, or you can play e5 in this exact position, like Porter did. How does it work? Well, you attack this one more time, and in case if they do this, you do that, and then just regrouping your knight guarantees a very strong attack. That's why maybe they can take and open the position. Knight takes e5, queen takes d8, rook f takes d8. Look at both rooks. Knight can go there. So bishop where? Bishop g2, maybe bishop e4, well, something like that. Then there is bishop g4 trying to exchange. So it's very hard for white to finish development of their pieces. And mainly because of this pawn. So there is no b3. That's why in this position he played bishop f3 and allowed black to capture the pawn on d2, d4. But we cannot take this pawn right away because our knight is hanging, right? So what do you think why black should do here? Okay, queen d4 is an option. Knight takes f2 is an option. What else? h5. So h5 makes sense. If you don't see anything else, you can play h5. Queen d4 looks interesting because it defends on g4 and threatens there. So the game would likely to continue like that. Bishop takes on g4 to eliminate the danger here, and then I think they can try this move. Well, it's not a winning position, so bishop c3. If rook g4, it's bishop b2. So that's why b takes c3, then bishop goes to defend. But because these are bishops of opposite color and the pawns are blocked, so it's likely to be a draw. That's why queen d4 doesn't look so promising. That's why let's play knight takes f2. And, well, Brian suggested this move. So, Brian, was it by intuition? Or you calculated something there? Well, yeah, well, bishop takes, yes, but it's mainly done by intuition. King takes, bishop takes d4, and now they played this move. So they cannot play this move because you take on b2, so this is quite obvious. Well, how does it work? The knight is simply hanging, so you win material back, and plus that, you also captured several pawns. It's completely winning. If they try to defend with a knight, it fails too. So how does it fail? Take on e3 and rook e8, but king f2. Actually, yes, then you can play queen f6, let's say. So add pressure there, threaten to take on e2 to be able to capture this rook. Or queen g5. Instead, king goes that way. And in this position, how can you play? Oh, queen c5 leads to checkmate, right? Because queen d4 fails. Yeah, queen g5 looks good. So knight f4, then you can play this move, then the king goes to the d file, and at least you win the queen. Fine, so that's right. So bishop e3 fails, and here what Portish had to intuitively evaluate was this position. Of course, he plays rook e8, and then he thought that, okay, so I sacrifice my knight for a pawn, I capture the second pawn on d4, and I create a pin. At the very least, I can take on e3 with my bishop, and this is how I'll exchange two minor pieces for rook and two pawns. So he just decided, plus that, it is a strong attack. That's why I may not calculate the line to the very end. Knight d5 was played here, defending and also threatening the bishop. What do you think is the best move here? So what does it mean to calculate the line to the end? Well, to calculate the line to that position where you can declare that you, in case of a sacrifice, if you have enough compensation. Mm, the volume decreased, and now I didn't change anything. Let me see if everything works. Same volume. Okay. So it's fine. I can continue, or let me. Okay, fine. So yeah, it's probably because I I was speaking not as loud as before. Okay, thank you. So what does it mean to calculate the line to the very end? Let me explain. So it means that you calculate the line to that position until that moment when you can declare that you have enough compensation in case if it was a sacrifice, or you see that you win the game, let's say, where you can definitely say that I completely understand the evaluation of the position, which is based on some objective factors, not by intuition. So for example, you see, okay, I calculate the line and I see that I'm plus 2 pawns there. So yeah, well, you are likely to have advantage then. And then you can stop the analysis. And so it sometimes it's very hard to calculate the line to the moment where you can declare that yes, I'm winning there, or yes, this sacrifice led to um, positive output for me. So you calculate the line until the moment where you see, okay, so it is a little unclear, but I think I achieved something, and I think that I can later convert this achievement. I just don't see it now, but maybe when the position arises, I can find a better move and I can find the continuation. So the b2 pawn, take on b2? No, not right now. Well, let me see. If you take there, take, knight f6 fails. So knight f6 is covered by the bishop. So rook e8, queen e8, and then I play this move. And you cannot take because of knight f6. And what I like about this position for white is that the king being on the dark square cannot be attacked by the rook. Okay, bishop a3 first. If bishop a3 first, yes, this move should be played. But then they take with the knight. That was their original idea, and b2 is not hanging. However, it was still good. You could continue with this move. Knight d5 and queen e5. And it's hard for white to make a move in this position. Well, if he moves there, you play queen c5. If he, rook b2 is coming, yes. So rook b1 probably defending it. c6, chasing the knight away, and queen c5 after that. So yeah, taking on a3 was definitely good. Well, if bishop a3, of course, you take on b2 here. King goes to g1, and well, this is a winning position. How to play here? Well, I think c6 works well, because c6 and knight moves, this bishop is hanging. Oh, well, yeah, rook b1, it can be bishop to f5, but what for? If our goal is to bring the queen on c5, we'd better achieve it with c6. Yeah, bishop a3 was right, but intuition this time didn't help Portish, and he played bishop c5, and that was a mistake. So b4 was played to eliminate this threat of rook b2 in some variations. C takes b3, and just a takes b3 was enough for white to successfully defend his position. Now the attack is over. The position is approximately equal. For this sacrifice, black has sufficient compensation. So after he takes on a3, sooner or later he has 2 pawns and a rook to compensate 2 minor pieces. That should be fine. So instead, bishop a3 was played in the game, and that was a mistake. So bishop takes, knight takes, and just b2. How does it work? Well, rook b1. Well, maybe they can take, but if they take, here I think the best option is just to take that rook and promote. So white already has extra material then. That's why rook b1 should be played. Queen g5 attacking this. And this bishop cannot defend. So queen e2. Queen a5. Bishop takes, but queen a2, creating another pin. And, well, black is completely winning here. He has a lot of pieces. He has passed pawns. And white has to defend against white has to defend his position. Once the rook moves, it's rook b2, so he's totally pinned. Queen c2, and finally, well, what would you play here, by the way? Rook b3. Well, rook b3, I don't know, because, well, rook b3, are you threatening to take there? So there is this move, but then you take with this rook. Maybe it's fine. So this, then bishop takes, and this is hanging, so... No, well, black should be winning here. Or maybe this, and rook a1. If rook takes a2. So yeah, this is a little unclear. So queen b2, queen takes, rook takes, this, and this pawn is lost, and maybe this. So I don't know whether white can draw the game or here or not. Very likely not. Yeah, rook a3 works, and if king takes, it's bishop f5. If, let's say, here you decide to threaten checkmate, rook b3 simply. That's why bishop f4, but, well, this is losing. So check. Queens should be exchanged. And once the king moves, well, you can pin him, I think. Yeah, you can pin him, but Portish played better. He realized that there is a pin, and he simply advanced his a pawn because the king is too far. So a4, this move. Well, a3, no. So rook b6, or maybe rook b8, and then a3. He wins a piece back for a pawn, and then he's 2 pawns up. It's completely winning. So h4, h5, this, and he won this game. So a3, this, a2. Well, it's definitely winning because it's possible to convert this 3 to a pass pawn. So g4 was played. If not, if, for example, this move, then it's king g7. And you also have a mating threat with rook f2, rook f5. It's even possible to play this move, and once he takes, it's f6 mate. So that's why actually he tried g4, but now two extra pawns on the flank, it's definitely winning. So this is the last attempt to threaten mate, but king moves there, and it's not checkmate anymore. That's it. This is where he resigned. Okay, so what can I say? Well, his decision here, there were 3 times where black had to take a decision based on intuition. So first was there when he took on c4, thinking that his coordination of his pieces and better development can compensate this pawn structure. Second was a sacrifice of the knight on f2, when he decided that he has a significant compensation once he adds pressure on this pin. So it's unclear whether it's a sound sacrifice on f2 or not. But he probably understands that everything he was doing before was good enough, and his piece's activity was, well, was quite promising. So that's why this sacrifice is likely to be favorable for black. But anyway, it requires calculation. So bishop d4, a pin, and then adding pressure on this pin would provide him with a better position. But then, when he played bishop c5, this is where he made a mistake. So this move, I think he made by intuition too. So he thought that, okay, so there is nothing wrong, I can just keep the pin. No, well, he definitely should play better here. And the better move was just take and then activate the queen. Fine. Okay, so we have 1 game left. And before we continue, I want you to guess who was the best intuitive player in the world, and who you consider to be the best intuitive player. Just your opinion. And while you are typing it, let me share something. So first of all, if you like and enjoy our webinars, well, they are free, but if you want, you can support me by doing a donation. This is the link. You can send your donation by PayPal. So let me share this link with you. How does it work? You just click this button, enter the amount you want to donate, like 10, 20, 50. Then you click PayPal. It redirects you to your PayPal account. You have to log in, and then you send money automatically to my PayPal account. So I would appreciate your help. It helps me to prepare for the webinars better. Fine. The second thing, so my profile on chess.com, we are also doing regular rapid events on Thursdays. Oh, by the way, in this group, now it's a new video published, and tomorrow there will be the recording of this event. And last time we did Italian game Rapid Arena, so maybe this time we can play Smith Mora. I will announce it in the club, so please join. Let me actually send you the link to join. And finally, so we are still doing group classes on Fridays. This is an 8-week intensive course, so all lessons are in live. I'm sure you're familiar, and many of you who participate in this workshop are already enrolled in it. So these are group lessons, and they are quite affordable. So it's around $7 per hour. You can pay it by 2 installments, $44 per month, 2 months, or you can pay immediately with some discount. It's $79 for the whole course. Okay, fine, and let's continue. We have one last game left, and who was the best intuitive player? Okay, the answer is on the screen. It's Mikhail Tal. Well, according to my opinion and according to the opinion of other chess players too. Well, how many of you agreed with me? So Ellen thinks it was Capablanca. Brian says Tal. Tal, yes, definitely. Richard Report. So, well, no, I don't think so. Well, I'm sure that Brian has in mind that Richard was helping, ex-world champion Ding Liren, and he was guessing what Jan Nepomniachtchi and what Gukesh, which openings they are preparing, so by intuition. So maybe that's why he can be considered the best. But it's definitely Tal. Nowadays, maybe Magnus Carlsen. But if we look at the whole chess career, that we can say that Tal was definitely more intuitive player, not Paul Murphy. Paul Murphy was good with pieces coordination, but okay, let's look at this game, and then I'm sure that all of you agree with me. The opening isn't important for us, so it was Paulson or Taimanov Sicilian, bishop a3, a6. Well, this time bishop d4 doesn't work so well, so a6 is a good move. bishop d3, knight f6, castle, bishop d6, attacking there, king h1. So if bishop takes, then the bishop is trapped. How is it trapped? It's trapped with g3 or f4. So I think it's take, and then it's g3. Then there is a sacrifice of the bishop, but 3 pawns do not compensate this bishop in such a position. Queen f3, let's say, and there is no checkmate. Well, maybe many of you would sacrifice it. If I were playing blitz, maybe I would sacrifice too, but in a standard chess, definitely not. I see that white has enough defense, and the bishop doesn't cost 3 pawns, especially a dark squared bishop in this type of the position, in Sicilian type of the positions, when the pawns are on light squares mainly. So h5, starting the attack, and he plays this move. I don't agree with white at all. Why? Because after knight g4, no, this is where I don't agree. He cannot play this move because he blunders on f4 in such a case. That's why he decided to play queen f3. And I think that this bishop is too important. So queen takes. Well, bishop c5 is a blunder. Look, he plays queen b6, but bishop c5 is a blunder. It looks good, but it is a blunder because of what? Who can tell me? Yeah, obviously. Knight e6. Knight b5, no, because knight b5, queen b6. But knight e6 works. So it's a double attack and as well as a discovered attack. So if d takes, queen takes. If something like queen b6, well, no, queen b6 fails. You just take on c5 with your queen. And if this, it's a fork even. Not only a win of a queen back, but a fork. Fine, so that's why queen b6. Knight c2. Black plays e5. So here, obviously, f takes e5, then bishop e5 and c3 was good enough. White definitely has advantage. f7 is a weakness. The king side is weakened with h5 move. So queen g5 can be played soon. So, well, I don't like the position. This knight can also go to d5 if needed. Nobody cares about the b2 pawn, especially when f7 is under attack. But it was Mikhail Tal, and can you guess the move he played? Knight f5 leads to the queen exchange, so I'm not sure that this is the best way. Because knight f5, queen takes queen, you don't have time to take on d6 or g7 with a check. Yeah, no, not knight e6. With knight e6, you blunder the queen. So blundering, I mean, sacrificing the queen is definitely unsound here. So he played queen g3, sacrificing the knight. And here he was absolutely correct. But let's talk about, well, here the engine marked it as a inaccuracy because f takes e5 was a slightly better move. But queen g3 still deserves attention, so it's not a mistake. I can change it. So why he decided to make such a sacrifice and what he was relying on? So first of all, he was relying on the weakness of the g7. For example, e takes d4, queen g7, rook has to move, the only square is f8, and then e5. The bishop has to move. If white wins material back, then black simply loses. So black struggles in that position, but as a compensation for such struggling, they have extra piece. If only white wins a piece, black continues struggling with no compensation. So e5, bishop should move, for example, there, and then it's this and this. f6 is coming, or e6 even. So, and this is where Tal decided that he has a strong attack. I don't think that he analyzed the position deeper. So he thought that this is a strong attack and it looks better for white, and it definitely forces black to defend his position properly, and because of that make mistakes. I mean, nobody can play several best moves in a row being under a pressure of a strong attack. Oh, maybe Magnus Carlsen. Fine. So what happened? What else he needed to calculate here? Knight to d4. This move had to be calculated. F takes e5 then. Bishop has to move. Let's say bishop c7. Queen g7, rook f8. So, and that was actually enough. Here he still thought that there is a strong attack, but if that happened, I think the game would end in a draw. Let me show you. So what we can say? We can say that this sacrifice of the knight on d4 deserves our attention because we are able to capture on g7, initiate a strong attack on f7, the rook, and other enemy pieces, trying to win material back. And once we win material back, the enemy king is in a danger. But again, it's impossible to calculate it. Fine. So knight d4 was the best move. It wasn't played in the game, but let me show you. So first take there, bishop c7, let's say, queen takes there, rook f8. Why rook f8? So rook h6 or queen h6 fails because f7 is hanging. Queen h6, queen f7, king d8. I think it's a winning position. That's why rook f8, definitely. And then the best way for white to play here, who can tell me the best way for white to play? Because knight d4 doesn't seem good. So the pawns are not so strong as they were in the other variation when e captured on d4. Maybe knight f4, but knight f4 just knight e6. The knights are exchanged. So this, which piece to take? With a queen? Yeah, with a queen, because it's b3, for example, already bishop f5. So rook f5, let's say, in this position. Queen g6, the queens are exchanged, and once the queens are gone, there is no compensation. So that's why it's only rook f7. Rook f7, rook takes f7, and queen h8. If rook moves, it's a perpetual check. So king e7, queen h4. Well, if the king goes here, I think it's something like that. Wait, maybe we can play a better move here. Queen g5. Queen g5, I think, is better. After king e6, it's bishop c4. And the same move in case of that. Yes, this seems like a disaster. King goes to e8, and at least there is a perpetual check. Maybe there is more than the perpetual check. No, I don't see. So there is a perpetual check only. Okay, fine. So, and if, let's say they move the king, then how to play? What do you think? This time white has more than a compensation, but because of what? Yeah, it's knight c3. Nothing can stop the knight coming to d5, which is a multiple attack. Fine, so that's why rook takes and there is a perpetual check, and that was the white's maximum. So when Mikhail Tal was sacrificing by playing queen g3, he had to admit that if black plays properly, he may draw the game only. Fine, let's continue. So in the game, it was e takes d4, not the best option. Queen g7, rook f8, the only move, and e5. Bishop e7 and f5. This is what he calculated. Here, it's hard to play such a move when you're under attack, but that was the best option. So knight f4, queen c3, and queen e5 to bring the queen back. Because knight d5 makes no sense. Then still queen e5, and well, if you take on e7, it doesn't look valuable. Okay, actually maybe knight here. This knight f6, king d8. No, even this doesn't work. And in case of this move, maybe queen e5 works. Queen e5 should work. So queen takes, it's possible to win exchange, but then black solves other problems, and two minor pieces here are stronger than a rook. Also, there are two extra pawns for black. So it was hard, but possible to save the game with queen b2 move. Instead, it was f6. And that was a mistake. This move exposes the king and allows us to take advantage of it. So knight f4, threatening with these moves. If, let's say, in this position, it's knight e5, how would you play? Well, if you play knight d5, he plays queen d6, defending the bishop. Then what? Rook a1, adding pressure. Well, but well, I still have the knight blocking everything on e5. That's why I don't see the point of rook e1. Knight g6. Yeah, okay, well, but queen d6 still defends. Knight g6, okay, I understand the point. Well, I think I can take it. No, I don't think knight g6 works. Rook a1 seems to be too slow. Guys, knight d5 is correct, but you'd better choose a proper order. This is how you win material back. And if it's not winning, it's definitely a better position because of the pawn structure. The number of pawns is equal, but the black's pawn structure is terrible. So rook f7 was played. What do you think? How to play in this position? So yeah, then it's correct. This time it's not intuition. Well, queen h8 isn't as promising as e takes f6. This time it's not by intuition, it's possible to calculate it. So rook takes, pawn, oops, mouse slip. Pawn takes on g7, king f7. There is no better way to stop g8, so king f7, and f6. Bishop c4, you allow him to take. f6 first, and then bishop c4 becomes a threat, as well as bishop g6, as well as bishop h7. Mainly bishop h7 or bishop c4. So bishop takes. Again, bishop c4 fails. They just take the pawn. Knight h5, threatening to take and protecting the pawn. And this is where it's easy to declare that it's completely winning. So, for example, how do they play this move? Well, one option is to take there, but I think you'd better play this because the pawn is still poisoned. I think it's better to play knight e7 here to stop the pawn. How would you play then? Win the queen, but you sacrificed the queen before. Are you sure you have enough material compensation? So the area piece up. Bishop c4 d5. Bishop h7, but what's the point? Because there is a knight and he sacrifices his knight. Bishop g6, well, king takes g6. Okay, it's rook a e1. So sacrificing there and promoting then. Because if he tries to block with knight g8, then it's bishop c4, and then you take it. So, for example, king g6, take. Oh, he can take on g7. Okay. King g6, I think you should play knight f6. Yeah, knight f6 works. Knight f6 works, and if they take here, you capture it and then promote with a check. This is winning. If they take on g7 instead, well, I think you have enough material to win the game. But probably you should start with a check. King goes there, knight g8 is checkmate. If king goes there, rook h7 is checkmate. If king goes there, knight g8 is a check, which allows you to continue the attack. So king g6 is the best move. Bishop d3. Oh, in this position. Good point, actually. I missed it. Okay, so... Okay, knight e8 or knight g8, what do you prefer? Maybe knight g8, actually. Yeah, knight g8, and this is winning. At least you have a knight and the rook versus queen. Knight, rook, and pawn, which totally compensates the queen, and also there is a mating attack with these moves. So, for example, rook f7, king h8, knight f6, and he cannot defend h7. So these pieces are not participating in the game. So you see, two connected rooks could play the most important role in the position. So it didn't happen. So he didn't take the queen. He played knight e5. But then just queen h8 and the game is over. So rook goes, another check, and then pawn takes. If bishop blocks, this is a slightly better move, but still fails. For example, rook e1, d6, and what do you think? Bishop c4? Yeah, bishop c4, the rook is trapped. So instead, knight g6 also, maybe, yeah. So instead it was bishop c4 played. That was a mistake. This is where his intuition didn't help him, and they lost all their advantage. Knight h5. Knight goes back to d6, defending the position. Check, king escapes, rook e7, so it's a poisoned rook. For example, well, rook takes, f takes, king takes, another check, and then you can take on f8. And this is a winning position. So king escapes, of course, but he can hardly unpin, and this pawn is dangerous. Wait, maybe after this move we can play better. Yeah, we can play knight f6. It eliminates king c7 option. And then we take, yeah, it works. So this cannot be stopped. This bishop cannot be protected. So, and if king c7, it's knight d5. It can be knight d5 anyway, just to avoid the king from escaping. Fine. So rook e7, queen b5 was played. Rook e1, and this is where he made a mistake. So it was a rook attack. he played queen d5. Instead, in this position, queen a5 would help. So c3, for example, it stops the attack. And then queen a2, defending f7. That would help. In the game, something similar, but white played extra temper. Knight f4, queen a2, and knight e6. So if d takes e6, it's just rook f7, and f8 is lost. For example, take this, this, and then two pawns can be promoted. That's why he decided to sacrifice the queen here, but obviously it's losing. Rook takes f6, simply rook takes f7, winning that bishop. So again, if knight takes, it's a check here. And then we take there and also promote. If rook takes, then same thing, they cannot defend on f8, and then the f pawn is promoted again. So, well, this sacrifice was intuitively almost correct. So white decided that they have a strong attack that compensates a piece, but it was very hard to make such a decision because in case of knight d4 here, it seems that the attack is stuck and the best option is just to play rook f7. But I'm sure that Mikhail Tal, when he sacrificed pieces by intuition, was completely fine if the game ends in a draw. He thought like that. Okay, so what do I have? I take a lot of risk, but I force my opponent to make defensive moves only, and under the pressure, my opponent is likely to make a mistake. And this is how I'll defeat him. But if he plays properly, my attack is strong enough and his king's position is so weak that at the very least I can always draw the game by doing a perpetual check. So he accepted this risk. He thought that, okay, so if he does his best, if my opponent does his best, it is a draw. So I'm fine, okay. But if it works, if he makes a mistake, then I defeat him. And under the pressure, most of his players made mistakes, and that's the reason why he won. So what I want you to do, and what you can remember from this workshop. So first of all, you can train your intuition. And first of all, you have to check whether your intuition is better than your calculation skills, for example. Compare your blitz rating and your standard rating. If your blitz is higher, then so you should trust your intuition. If not, then you should trust your intuition occasionally. Only in cases if you cannot make a concrete decision regarding a certain position. Only then trust your intuition. But in most cases, base your analysis on the calculation of concrete variation and the evaluation of the position after that. This is how I play chess. So it's very rare when I make intuitive decisions. I always try to calculate as deep as I could, and only then, if I cannot calculate deeper, if I see that the position is unclear, I make intuitive decision. Yes, and it also depends on the time control. If you don't have time to calculate, or if you see that calculating this line forces you to spend like 30 minutes and you have only 1 hour, don't calculate it. Instead, choose something more simple. So it's better to play several average moves rather than spend all of your time and play one strong. Yes, and it does make sense to, if your opponent doesn't have time to think, it does make sense to sharpen the position. It doesn't mean that you should intuitively sacrifice, but maybe instead you'd better keep tension on the board, and that will give you better chances, and that would force your opponent to think and spend time and come up with something which doesn't make his position worse. Okay, fine. So that's all for today. Thank you for joining. We will continue on our with our next workshop next Sunday, and there will be I'll be playing in the title Tuesday on Tuesday, and I'll be streaming it on Twitch, so you can watch it if you want. There also will be a Rapid Arena on Thursday. I will announce everything in my at our club at Chesslands on in our club in our Chesslands club at chess.com. So, and on Friday there are group classes. Oh, next Sunday is Easter. Will you still do the workshop? Well, I think so. What do you think? Will people join? Yeah, I think I will. I think I will, even if it's Easter. Okay, perfect. If you all come, fine. See you then, and thank you for joining today.